In Troy, there lies the scene. From isles of Greece, the princes, Orgilius, their high blood chafed, have to the port of Athens sent their ships, fraught with the ministers and instruments of cruel war. 69 that wore their cronets regal from the Athenian bay put forth towards Phrygia, and their vow is made to ransack Troy, within whose strong immures the ravished Helen, Menelaus' queen, with wanton Paris sleeps. And that's the quarrel. To Tenedos they come, and the deep-drawing bark do there disgorge their warlike freightage. Now on Dardan plains the fresh and yet unbruised Greeks do pitch their brave pavilions. Priam's 6-gated city, Dardan and Timbria, Helias, Chetus, Troyan, and Antonidas, with massive staples and corresponsive and fulfilling bolts, stir up the sons of Troy. Now expectation tickling skittish spirits, on one and other side, Trojan and Greek, sets all on hazard. And hither am I come, a prologue armed, but not in confidence of author's pen or actor's voice, but suited, in like conditions as our argument, to tell you, fair beholders, that our play leaps o'er the vaunt and firstlings of these broils, beginning in the middle, starting thence away to what may be digested in a play. Like or find fault, do as your pleasures are, now good or bad, 'tis but the chance of war. And welcome to New Play Day! That was the prologue. That was the prologue from Troilus and Cressida. So we don't need to really tell you how we're setting the scene, because the prologue does that for us. What it's telling us is this play takes place in the Trojan War. And I'm guessing that you've heard of the Trojan War. That whole thing of Menelaus' queen was stolen by Paris and taken to Troy. She was Greek. Menelaus and Helen were in Greece. Paris came and stole Helen and took her back to Troy, and there was like a 10-year siege because she was supposedly so beautiful. There was a 10-year siege by the Greeks on the city of Troy trying to win her back, which culminated in the Trojan horse, where they built this big wooden horse and a bunch of Greeks hid inside it, but the rest of them were like, bye, we're done here. And so the Trojans brought the horse inside, and then the Greeks were able to sack Troy and win the Trojan War. So anyway, that is where this particular play is set. It's set during the Trojan War. And the first bit of this monologue is just telling us that that's what it's about, and that's what the quarrel here is. The Greeks are trying to get Helen back from Troy, so they loaded up their ships and they set out and they have this plan to sack the city. But then the prologue sort of breaks that wall and says, hi, and I'm here. You're like, all of that is going on, there's all this crazy war and stuff, but I'm here, and I'm dressed like a soldier or whatever, but I'm here to tell you that we're going to skip to about 7 years into the war. And that's where we're going to start, because the first 7 years of the war weren't really worthy of a play, but now that we're into it a little bit, there's some stuff that we can make a play out of. So that's where we are, and that's where we're going to start. And so yeah, that's welcome to New Play Day on Shakesyear. That's the prologue from Troilus and Cressida. And this is Troilus and Cressida is a play that isn't necessarily performed very much anymore. I know it was done in New York at the Shakespeare in the Park a couple of years ago, and at that time I had the impression that it was sort of a Romeo and Juliet meets Coriolanus type thing. Like there's this love story going on, but there's also this war story going on. And revisiting the play a little bit, it's not quite Romeo and Juliet, as most people will tell you, and this is often classified as a problem play because it does straddle that line of, is it a romance, is it a war play? But the romance is, well, you'll find out more about the romance later, and the war is, well, you'll find out more about the war later. So there's a lot of questions, and you can leave the play by the end of it feeling sort of meh. It's, yeah, so there are supposedly a lot of funny elements to it, which hopefully I'll be able to perform correctly as they fall into the monologues. So some people call it a comedy, but it's not a true comedy. It's a weird mixture between romance and war, with a lot of satire thrown in there. And it's got elements of almost a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead type thing, because when you think about the Trojan War, you think about Helen and Menelaus and Paris, but we're going to be focusing on Troilus and Cressida, who were sort of minor characters in the whole Trojan War story. In most of the versions that it's been told, there was like one poem written specifically about Troilus and Cressida that was cited as maybe one of the sources of this play. But like Helen and Menelaus and Paris are more minor characters in this, and Troilus and Cressida are slightly more major characters. So it's that whole, it's looking at the Trojan War from a different perspective, which will be fun. So come on back tomorrow for more. We'll figure out what happens when you start a play 7 years into a war over a beautiful woman. I'll see you then for that. Mwah.